Okay.
Ready to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is Bhagat Samakia, Chair of NYCH. I'd like to welcome the directors to the meeting. Due to the public health concerns, this meeting is being held via teleconference as authorized by the executive order of the governor. The webcast is available for members of the public to listen to the meeting, and we welcome those of you who are listening to the meeting via webcast. I would like to ask everyone to mute their phones when they're not speaking to minimize background noise. Also, please identify yourself when speaking and making motions. For voting, we will call out each director's name for their vote so we can accurately record the vote. I would now do a roll call of the participants in today's meeting, and I'll start with the directors who are participating in the meeting. Michael Abbott.
Present.
Alicia Barton.
Present.
Christine Chung.
Present.
Michael Crane.
Present.
Franklin Heck. Dr. Meng Ling Cao.
Present.
Brad Johnson.
Present.
Kristen Proud.
Present.
Kenneth Tompkins.
Present.
Thank you. I'll now do a roll call of our member designees. Kevin Yunus, Chief Operating Officer of Empire State Development, and he's the designee of the Chief Executive Officer of Empire State Development. Dr. Todd Larson, Senior Vice Chancellor and Provost of the State University of New York, and he's the designee of the Chancellor of the State University of New York.
Present.
Thank you. I'll now do a roll call of the officers who are participating in the meeting. Dr. Douglas Gross.
Present.
Patricia Arciero-Zegg.
Present.
Paul Kelly.
Present.
Scott Bateman.
Present.
Timothy Taylor.
Present.
And Patricia Buckland.
Present.
Thank you. So I'll now ask the directors if anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to the items on today's agenda. If there is such a conflict, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record now and recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to that item. Not hearing any, I will assume there are no conflicts. And I'd like to start by requesting an approval of the minutes of the meeting which was held on May 21st, 2020. Motion?
Moved, Ken.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
This is Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen. So I'll now ask each director for their vote. Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Alicia Barton.
Aye.
Christine Chung.
Aye.
Michael Crane.
Aye.
Franklin Heck. Dr. Meng Ling Cao.
Aye.
Brad Johnson.
Aye.
Kristen Proud.
Aye.
Kenneth Tompkins.
Aye.
And I'd like to indicate that my vote is yes. The minutes are approved. I would now like to introduce Michael Abbott, who is the chair of the Audit Committee, for the Audit Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. You have before you information related to the Port Schuyler Management Corporation Resolution 193, the approval of the annual audit. I'd like to ask for a motion to consider and adopt Resolution 193, approving the audit.
So moved. This is Kristen. Oh, sorry.
Second?
Meng Ling, second.
Thank you. For background, pursuant to the bylaws of the Port Schuyler Management Corporation, the financial records and accounts of the organization shall be audited annually or at such other times as directed by the Board of Directors by a certified public accountant or firm therein designated for such purpose by the Board of Directors. 2018-19 annual audit was conducted and prepared by KPMG certified independent accounting firm designated for such purpose by the Board of Directors. A draft audit was submitted to the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee approved the 2018-19 annual audit, subject to and conditional upon completion of the remaining administrative items discussed with the Audit Committee by management and the certified independent accounting firm to the satisfaction of the Chair of the Audit Committee, with the recommendation that the 2018-19 annual audit be approved by the Board of Directors with the same conditions. The action requested today is to approve Fort Schuyler Management Corporation Resolution number 193. Is there any discussion of the matter? Hearing none, I will ask each director for their vote on the motion to approve Resolution 193. Alicia?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Michael? Aye. Franklin? Mingling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Sagat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I also record my vote in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The second item we have deals with insurance renewal for Fuller Road Management Corporation. You have materials related to this motion. I'd like to ask for a motion to consider and adopt a resolution approving the Fuller Road Management Corporation insurance renewal.
So moved. This is Mengling.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Fuller Road Management Corporation seeks to renew its various lines of insurance for the period commencing on July 1, 2020. FRMC's insurance broker, Amsure, conducted a comprehensive outreach process and prepared a proposed insurance and risk management program for FRMC. Amsure is an independent risk management insurance advisory firm that represents over 20 different insurance carriers. Summary of the proposed program is in the materials provided to you. As noted in the summary, the aggregate cost for 2020 has decreased by $29,650 from last year. New York Creates will be a named insured under the policy. The Fuller Road Management Corporation Audit Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of the meeting, including recommending that the board approve the same action. The action requested today is to approve a resolution approving and authorizing the insurance renewal as described in the summary, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid insurance renewal with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve. The execution thereby by such officers to constitute inclusive evidence of such approval, and approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intent of the resolution. Is there any comments or discussion of the matter? Hearing none, I will ask each director for their vote on the motion. Alicia?
Aye.
Kristen? I'm sorry,
Aye.
Christine?
Aye. Thank
Michael?
you.
Aye. Franklin? Mengling?
Aye.
Brad? Kristen?
Aye.
Sagat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I also would like my vote to be recorded in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you. Our third item deals with insurance renewal for the Fort Schuyler Management Corporation. I'd like to ask for a motion to consider and adopt a resolution approving the Fort Schuyler Management Corporation insurance renewal.
So moved, Ken.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second this Langley.
Thank you. Fort Schuyler Management Corporation seeks to renew with various lines of insurance for the period commencing on July 1, 2020. FSMC's insurance broker, Amshore, conducted a comprehensive outreach process as it did for FRMC, and a summary of the proposed program is in the materials provided to you. As noted in the summary, the aggregate costs for 2020 have increased by $74,469 from the last year. New York Creates will be named insured under the policy. The FSMC Audit Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of the meeting. Approve the same action. The action requested today is to approve the resolution approving and authorizing the insurance renewals as described in the summary, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid insurance renewals, such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval, and approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intent of the resolution. Is there any discussion or comments on this matter? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to ask each director for their vote on the matter. Alicia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Michael? Aye. Franklin? Menling?
Aye. Aye.
Brad? Thank you.
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Kristen? Thank you. Kristen?
Aye.
Sagat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Now like to introduce Kristen Proud to give the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Dr. Samakia. The first item from the Finance Committee today for the full board's consideration is a motion to consider and approve authorization for extension of an agreement with Bottling Group, LLC. Could I ask for a motion for consideration of this resolution, please?
So moved, Christine.
Thanks, Christine. Second?
Second, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. So by way of background, in 2016, Fuller Road Management Corporation entered into a beverage sales agreement with Bottling Group, LLC and its affiliates and their subsidiaries, collectively comprising Pepsi Beverages Company, we'll call it Pepsi for the sake of today's meeting, that provides Pepsi with the exclusive right to sell its products in vending machines and other food services operations, with certain exceptions, at the Albany Nanotech campus. The agreement provides for annual support funds, commissions, rebates, and product donations. It expires on June 30th, 2020. FRMC originally planned to issue an RFP for a beverage service provider during the spring of this year. However, due to the COVID-19 virus and the related difficulties of bringing potential vendors to the site during this public health emergency, FRMC determined that this would present public health concerns for both the vendors and FRMC employees, and seeks instead to enter into a one-year extension of beverage sales agreement to extend the agreement with Pepsi for 1 year. While this contract extension does not appear to be a procurement contract covered by the procurement policy guidelines, The extension is consistent with the guidelines, which provide that a procurement contract may be awarded without following the solicitation requirements that normally apply in situations such as this, where there are health and safety concerns due to the public health crisis in doing a competitive process at this time. The Finance Committee unanimously approved the resolution described in the memorandum that was provided to you in advance of this meeting, including the recommendation that the board approve the same actions here today. So the action requested, just to summarize, is approval of a resolution, 1, approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an extension agreement with Pepsi on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid extension agreement with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve. The execution thereof shall be by such officer and shall constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of the resolution. Is there any discussion or are there any questions on this matter? All right, and I would just add that it was clearly not an appropriate time to bring in anyone on site to be able to look at the physical plant and layout of the Albany Nanotech campus in order to prepare to respond to a competitive procurement. So to me, I think it makes perfect sense that we would extend this for a 1-year term. So hearing no discussion, I will ask each director individually for his or her vote on this motion. Michael Abbott?
Aye.
Alicia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Michael Frame?
Aye.
Franklin? Mengling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dr. Samakia?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. So the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The next item from the Finance Committee is authorization for agreement with JR Proprietors, Inc. I would ask for a motion to consider and approve authorization. Is there a motion?
So moved, Christine.
Thanks, Christine. Second?
Second, Felicia.
Thanks, Alicia. So Fuller Road Management Corporation is seeking to enter into a vending services agreement with JR Proprietors, Inc., pursuant to which JR will provide non-exclusive vending and vending-related services for the sale of food and snacks at the Albany Nanotech campus and at Kiernan Plaza. This will be effective September 1, 2020. For use of the vending space, JR Proprietors, Inc. will pay Fuller Road Management Corporation a commission of 15% of the net sales of the snack and food products sold in its machines each month. The agreement expires on November 3, 2024, and has an option to renew for 1 year upon the mutual written agreement of both parties. FRMC currently has a vending services agreement with Prestige Services, Inc. that will expire on June 30, 2020. In a separate agenda item that will be before the board after this one, FRMC seeks to extend the agreement with Prestige for up to 3 months until the contract with JR will begin. While the contract with JR does not appear to be a procurement contract covered by the procurement policy guidelines, the award of the contract is consistent with the guidelines, since the guidelines permit contracts to be awarded on a non-competitive basis to small businesses, which this is. The Finance Committee unanimously approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of this meeting, including recommending that the board approve the same actions. So to summarize the actions requested on this item, would be to approve a resolution, 1, approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into a vending service agreement with JR on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid agreement with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intent of this resolution. At this time, I would open it up for any questions or discussion from the board members. Okay. Hearing none, we will move to vote on the resolution. I'll ask each director for his or her vote individually, starting with Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Alicia? Aye. Christine?
Aye.
Michael Frame?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Meng Ling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dr. Samakia?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. So the ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. The next item is an authorization for extension of the agreement with Prestige Services, which I mentioned a moment ago. So I would ask for a motion to consider and approve authorization for an agreement with Prestige Services, Inc.
So moved, this Alicia.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. So in 2015, Fuller Road Management Corporation entered into a vending service agreement with Prestige Services, Inc., pursuant to which Prestige agreed to provide non-exclusive vending and vending-related services at the Albany Nanotech campus and at Kiernan Plaza. The agreement expires on June 30th, 2020, and has an option to renew for 1 year upon the mutual written consent of the parties. FRMC seeks to enter into an extension of vending service agreement with Prestige to extend the term of the agreement on a month-by-month basis for up to 3 months to allow for an orderly transition to the new provider that is expected to begin its operations on September 1, 2020, as discussed in the previous agenda item. The terms of the original agreement with Prestige would remain in full force and effect during the extension term. The Finance Committee unanimously approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of this meeting, including recommendation that the board approve the same action. So at this time, the action requested is approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an extension of vending service agreement with Prestige on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of the resolution. At this time, I would open it up to any questions or comments from the board members. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the vote, starting with Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Alicia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Michael Frame?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Meng Ling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dr. Samakia?
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative, please. So the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The next item is a lease. Yes, sorry.
It's Ken. I don't think I got told there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ken.
That's okay. Aye.
Thank you very much. So we are still unanimous with the ayes, and the motion is adopted. The next item is a lease amendment with DPS Group, Inc. I'd ask for a motion at this time to consider and approve a lease amendment with DPS.
I'll make the motion, Franklin.
Thank you, Franklin. A second, please.
Second is Alicia.
Thanks, Alicia. So by way of background, BPS Group, Inc. is a firm headquartered in Ireland that focuses on advanced technology, including semiconductor design. It currently leases 5,000 square feet of office space in the Zen building for a 5-year term that is scheduled to expire on June 30th, 2020, with an option to renew for 1 year. BPS seeks to lease an additional 2,500 square feet of office space adjacent to its current space. The lease term for the entire 7,500 square feet is 7 years and 4 months from the date of commencement, which is the date on which a certificate of occupancy is issued for the new space. The tenant will have an option to extend the lease for 1 year. Rent for the entire space will be $33 per square foot, including maintenance and operating expenses for the common areas and utilities, beginning 4 months after the date of commencement. The tenant will also pay for parking. FRMC will pay a tenant allowance of $200,000 towards fit-up and other tenant allowances. The proposed lease represents a small fraction of the total building. Therefore, an appraisal of the fair market value of the asset is not practical. Staff has determined that the lease meets fair market value based on other existing leases in the same building. The Finance Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of this meeting, including recommending that the board approve the same actions. So at this time, we're seeking approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an amendment to the lease with BPS on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid amendment with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of the resolution. Are there any questions or comments about the resolution at this time? Hearing none, we will move on to vote on the motion, starting with Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Alicia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Michael Frame?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Meng Ling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dr. Samakia?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The next item is a lease amendment with Neutral Physics Corporation. Could I have a motion to consider and approve a lease amendment with Neutral Physics Corporation, please?
So moved. This is Meng Ling.
Thank you, Ming Ling. A second?
Second, Mike Abbott.
Thank you. So Neutral Physics Corporation has leased 619 square feet of office space in NFE since 2018. The lease expires on January 5th, 2021. Neutral Physics Corporation now seeks to amend its lease to terminate it as of May 31, 2020. FRMC is willing to terminate this lease as a new tenant will lease the space. The terms of the new tenant lease are also before the board. The Finance Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to you in advance of this meeting, including recommending that the board approve the same actions. So I'll summarize. The action requested is approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an amendment to the lease with NPC on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid amendment with its changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval, And 3, approving and authorizing the president and treasurer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of this resolution. Are there any comments or questions regarding this resolution?
Kristen, this is Christine Chang.
Yes.
I'm wondering whether we can amend it slightly to note that the terms of the new lease will shortly be before the board, because I don't believe they're before the board today at this meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah, we can make a note of that. Thank you for that clarification. Are there other questions or comments regarding this motion? All right. Then I'll ask each director for his or her vote, starting with Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Alicia?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
Michael Frame?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Meng Ling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Dr. Samakia?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. So the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. At this time, that concludes the Finance Committee report and agenda, and I will turn it back over to Dr. Samakia.
Thank you, Kristen. I'd like to ask if anyone has any new business to introduce. I would like to bring up one item related to board member Alicia Barton. Ms. Barton has advised that she will be moving out of state to accept a new employment opportunity, and as a result, she will be resigning from the board effective tomorrow. We'd like to sincerely thank Ms. Barton for her dedicated service to the board and wish her all the very best in her new endeavors. Thank you.
I would
you.
second
That's
that,
very
Dr. Samakia.
You're very welcome. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask whether there are anyone is actually, given the change in meeting logistics due to public health concerns, we notified the public of the opportunity to send in comments via email, and we did not receive any comments. The next meeting will be scheduled, and we will let you know as soon as we have a date, and it will be posted on the website. And with that, unless there is any new business, I would like to request